Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Let me take you straight to the moment it all collapsed. No intros, no warm-ups, no once upon a time. There was a picture frame on the living room wall. Now there's just a shadow where it used to be. She didn't notice at first. Her heels tapped softly across the floor, like she'd walked into her usual little kingdom, keys jingling as if nothing in the world had changed. But I wasn't there. Neither was the TV, the couch, the lamp she always hated, the shelf with our vacation memories, and that frame, the one with our wedding photo in Santorini, was gone. Only the nail remained, and the empty outline. That's where the story really begins. No yelling, no confrontation, no public scenes, just silence and absence. Earlier that week, she told me she was heading to Minneapolis for a leadership seminar, 5 days, intensive schedule. No phones during sessions, babe, she'd said. Don't freak out if I'm quiet. She even kissed me twice, once on the lips, once on the forehead, like a mother soothing a child. She packed light. Too light. And stupid me? I even helped her zip the suitcase. That same night, while she was supposedly listening to TED-style talks about emotional intelligence, I got a message. Not a rumor, not a blurry photo, a live stream, from my buddy who works valet at a hotel 2 hours from our house. She didn't see the camera. She didn't even look nervous. He filmed her laughing, as she wrapped her arms around a guy in a fitted suit and kissed him on the neck like they were in a movie. Not a secret, not a one-time mistake. They moved like they'd done this for years. The live feed cut off before I could scream. But it was enough. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I went into action. I hired a moving company with 24-hour discretion. I paid extra to have them come at 3 a.m. I removed everything I'd ever paid for. Every wire, bulb, plate, chair, charger, towel, fork, rug, even the shower curtain. She walked into a shell. And then, the letter. I placed it where the picture frame had hung. I printed it on the back of our wedding vows. It started with just 2 words. You knew. She stood there frozen, staring at the empty space on the wall like it had betrayed her. Her hand still gripped the doorknob. I imagined her heart pounding, her mind racing to catch up with what her eyes were seeing. Or, rather, not seeing. No furniture, no lights on, no warm scent of dinner in the air. Just stillness and the ghost of a home she no longer owned. I didn't leave the letter on the table like in the movies. I wanted her to work for it. I taped it inside the hollow of the picture frame's outline. Not obvious, but not hidden either. If she actually cared to look at the space where our wedding photo had once hung, she'd find it. It wasn't long, just a single typed page, no dramatic ending, no signature, just the truth, the timeline, the screenshots, the receipts, the stream link, a cold, concise summary of betrayal, and 3 words to end it. You knew. Goodbye. I knew she'd find it. Thea always loved symbolic things, used to get emotional over movie endings where a character silently walked away. Well, this was her custom-made ending, except she was the villain, and I was the one who disappeared without needing to shout. Quiet was louder. By the time she'd found the note, I was already 3 states away. I stayed at a roadside motel with buzzing fluorescent lights and a mattress that smelled like burnt coffee. Glamorous, right? But I slept better there than I had in months. The calls started about an hour after she would have returned home. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. 17 in under an hour. Where are you? Marshall, this isn't funny. Are you okay? Call me now. Then silence. Then, you're overreacting. We should talk. Nothing happened. That last one made me laugh. I mean, actually laugh. Out loud. In that grimy motel room with peeling paint and a single working lamp. Nothing happened. I had footage of her hand down his shirt. I had audio. I had the truth. But, you know what I didn't have? Anger. That surprised me. I wasn't mad anymore. I was just done. Like a switch had flipped inside me. Everything I thought I needed from her evaporated the moment I saw her kiss that man like she used to kiss me. Back when she meant it, when it wasn't performance, when it wasn't guilt. I didn't want to destroy her. I just wanted her to sit with the emptiness, the same emptiness she'd left me in for the past year, the kind you can't fix with apologies or flowers or whatever teary story she was planning to spin. This wasn't a soap opera. This was my real life, and I was finally rewriting it. The next morning, I got a voicemail. Her voice cracked halfway through like she was trying to cry but hadn't earned the tears. "Please come back, Marshall. I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I was lonely and you were always so distant." That last word, distant. The same word she used when I didn't laugh at her coworker's inappropriate joke at a party 6 months ago. The same word she used when she started wearing perfume to clear her head on solo walks. It was always my fault. She never once said, "I'm sorry." Only, "I'm scared." Good. That was the point. The hardest part wasn't watching her lies unfold. It wasn't even the footage or the texts or the receipts she left like a breadcrumb trail of infidelity. No, the hardest part was realizing just how easy it had become for her to forget me, to step into someone else's arms and leave our life behind like it was a bad rental. I kept wondering, was there a specific day when she stopped loving me? Or was it just a slow fade, like the way paint peels from the ceiling, until one day the whole room looks abandoned? I kept thinking about that during the drive, somewhere between Kansas City and the middle of nowhere in Nebraska. I had no plan, just a duffel bag, a backup phone, and an address I hadn't used in years. It was my grandparents' old farmhouse, empty since they passed. I kept the key out of guilt more than anything, but now it was salvation, a hiding place, a bunker, a beginning. The house was dusty, smelled like old books and soil, but it was mine. No one knew about it, not even Thea. I lit a fire in the old iron stove and sat in the dark, surrounded by silence and peeling wallpaper, trying to remember who I had been before her. That's when I remembered the box. Years ago, my grandfather had given me this locked wooden box with a brass clasp and no key. He said, "You'll know when it's time." I'd always thought it was some poetic metaphor, but after everything fell apart, I suddenly needed to open it, like it was waiting for this moment. I found it buried under old coats and photo albums in the attic crawlspace, dusty heavy, still locked. I didn't have the key, but I had rage. I cracked it open with a screwdriver and a hammer, splintered the edge, and peeled it open like a can. Inside was a single envelope. No money, no heirlooms, no map to treasure. Just a letter, a confession. My grandfather had written it during the final months of his life, revealing a truth no one in the family knew, that my grandmother had betrayed him too. And he never confronted her. He just left one morning and never returned. Started over in another city. Changed his name. Lived an entirely new life. The man I knew as my grandfather wasn't even born with that name. I read that letter 6 times, my hands shaking. The timing felt cosmic, like fate had left breadcrumbs for me this time. I was reading the story of my future, and it didn't end with begging or fighting or dragging her name through the mud. It ended with complete erasure. That's when I knew what I had to do. See, up until that point, I just left, escaped, made her sit in the ruins. But it wasn't enough. Not really, not for someone like Thea. She could spin the story to her friends, play the victim, cry about how I abandoned her. She'd say I had issues, that I needed space, that I went off the rails. So I changed the plan. I logged into every shared account. Not to drain them. I'm not that petty. I just left her a message in each one, a brief line she'd see next time she tried to log in. Check the wall, a reminder, a ghost, a warning. I also mailed a copy of that hotel receipt to her parents. No return address. Just a sticky note inside that read, "Ask your daughter." I didn't need them to hate her. I just needed her to know she couldn't twist the story. The last move, I sent her a calendar invite. Yeah, a Google Calendar event. Title, anniversary. Date, next Friday. Location, nowhere. Just a description. Let's see what's left. She accepted it. I watched the notification pop up. My hands trembled. She thought it was a sign I wanted to talk, maybe work things out, that I was softening, but she didn't realize the meeting was never for us. It was for me. To watch her fall just once into the hole she dug herself. When Friday came, it wasn't raining or gray or cinematic the way I thought it would be. It was bright, clear. Too bright, honestly. The kind of day people associate with weddings, picnics, or new beginnings. But for me, it felt hollow. It should have been our 10th anniversary. 10 years of marriage. Double digits. A milestone we used to joke would end with some cheesy cruise or a vow renewal in the Rockies. Instead, I was parked 2 blocks from our former favorite cafe, watching her through the tinted glass of my borrowed car. A black rental with plates from out of state. She looked like she had tried too hard. New dress, hair done, even those ridiculous high heels she used to avoid because they gave her blisters. She wanted to look stunning. She wanted me to see her and remember what I lost. But I didn't feel anything. Not bitterness, not longing, not even hate. Just this strange, calm detachment, like watching an actress in a play I'd seen too many times to care about anymore. She checked her phone every few seconds, obviously hoping I was nearby. Probably imagined I'd show up with flowers, looking broken, maybe even desperate. She always did think I was too soft, too forgiving, too sentimental. And in a way, I was. Until I wasn't. What she didn't know, and what made my hands tremble just a bit, was that the other person sitting 2 tables away was someone I'd hired, a professional, clean-cut guy with a polite smile and a hidden mic. He wasn't dangerous or intimidating, just someone who knew how to have a conversation while recording it legally in a public space. His job wasn't to scare her. His job was to make her talk. She looked up when he approached and smiled instinctively. She always had a weakness for polished men in suits. He played it well, said he was a lawyer representing someone from a real estate company, told her there were questions about our former shared property. She nodded quickly, curious, engaged. Then he mentioned the house. Her face changed. Then he dropped a name. Collins. Thea froze, blinked, laughed awkwardly, the way she did when caught off guard. She asked if this was a joke. He leaned in and asked one question. How long were you seeing Mr. Collins before your husband left? And just like that, the facade cracked. She didn't deny it, not at first. She fumbled. She tried to steer the conversation toward emotional distance and marriage struggles. The usual spin. But the thing is, when people feel exposed, they talk too much. They try to fill the silence with justifications. And that's exactly what she did. She admitted to the affair. Said it had been going on for over a year. Said she never planned for it to go that far. That she loved Marshall, but felt invisible. That recording, her words in her own voice, would be more powerful than any divorce attorney or courtroom drama. But I didn't want to ruin her financially. I didn't even want revenge in the traditional sense. I wanted honesty. And now, I had it. Back in the car, I opened the file on my laptop and played it again. I expected it to hurt. It didn't. It felt like closure. Like I had taken all her lies and finally turned them into something real. Something undeniable. She left the cafe 20 minutes later, pacing and frantically calling someone. I could tell from the way her mouth moved that she wasn't talking to me. Maybe Collins. Maybe one of her friends. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. I didn't need to watch her spiral. I just needed to disappear again. But before I drove off, I sent her a final message. No insults, no threats. Just a file attachment with one line of text. Happy anniversary. You earned it. I thought I'd feel finished after sending her the audio file. I thought that would be the exclamation point, the end of the unraveling. But then she did exactly what I knew she would. She tried to get ahead of the story. She started rewriting everything, framing herself as the confused wife left behind by an unstable husband who just snapped. She told her friends I was spiraling emotionally. She hinted to her parents that I was mentally unwell, that I might have been cheating on her, that I had always had secrets. It would have been impressive if it weren't so laughably predictable. She didn't realize I still had access to our shared cloud. She'd never bothered removing my permissions. The moment she started uploading videos of herself crying and writing long, dramatic posts on her private social media circle about what she was going through, I was there, watching it in real time. The best part? She even tried to claim I cleared out the house in a rage, as if I'd had some violent breakdown and vanished like a lunatic. I wanted to throw my laptop across the room from how absurd it was. But instead, I just saved every post, every video, every text, quietly, calmly, methodically. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. So, I took a different approach. There was one person Thea had always tried to impress more than anyone. Her older sister, Adriana. They weren't close, but Thea always acted like she was trying to prove something to her. Adrienne was successful, well-respected, no nonsense, and completely uninterested in drama. So I emailed Adrienne, not with rage, not with blame, just with facts. I sent her the receipt from the hotel, the recording of Thea admitting to the affair, the screen-captured texts, And finally, the video Thea had posted, claiming I was emotionally abusive. I didn't add commentary, no explanation. I ended the email with one sentence. This is what your sister is telling people. I just want the truth to live somewhere I didn't expect a response. But I got one. Adrian replied within 2 hours. Short, direct. Understood. I'm sorry. That was it. No drama, but I knew what it meant. And more importantly, Thea knew too, because 24 hours later, she started calling me, not angrily, not with desperation, but something worse. Polite, measured, controlled. Marshall, can we talk when you're ready? I've been thinking a lot, and I realize now how much pain I caused. I know I've said things I can't take back, but I'd like to make things right. The mask had cracked, and now she was trying to glue it back together with soft words and performative remorse. The worst part? A year ago, that might have worked. I used to crave apologies from her. I used to imagine her finally realizing what she'd done and crawling back with real regret. But now, it felt like listening to someone trying to sell you a product you didn't need anymore. So I replied with one line, "You can't lie to everyone forever." She didn't respond to that, not at first. Instead, I got a message 2 days later from a mutual friend, someone we used to hang out with at trivia nights. He told me Thea had broken down during brunch, said she missed me and had no idea why I left the way I did, that she was heartbroken and blindsided, and that, if I wasn't careful, people might start believing her version, and that was the moment I decided to release the final truth. I wasn't going to do it publicly. I wasn't going to drag her name through court filings or Facebook rants. I just had one final list of people to send the audio to, the ones she had lied to most, her parents, her friends, her co-workers. No commentary, no captions, just the truth, spoken in her voice, detailing the affair, the timeline, the excuses. And at the bottom of every message, the same sentence. She said she was blindsided. Listen to her words, then decide for yourself. The thing about liars is they hate when you quote them. They hate mirrors. And Thea was about to see 1,000 of them. The message didn't go viral. It didn't explode on social media or end up on some gossip site. It did exactly what I wanted. It sank silently into the inboxes of the people who mattered. Her carefully crafted bubble of control began to crack, not with a bang, but with whispers. People didn't confront her. They just started treating her differently. A coworker didn't invite her to lunch. Her best friend viewed the message and never replied. Her father, who had always been cold to me, suddenly sent me a quiet, "I understand now" email. And Thea, she didn't take it well. She texted me after 3 days of silence. Her tone was no longer polished or polite. It was frantic. "How could you do this to me?" she wrote. "You're ruining my life." And that's when I realized she still didn't get it. I hadn't ruined anything. I had simply removed the silence that let her lies thrive. All I did was replace her narrative with the truth, and she hated the fact that her story wasn't the only one anymore. But I wasn't finished. I knew Thea better than anyone. I knew her career mattered more to her than anything else. Not our marriage, not her family, not even her so-called friends. Her identity was wrapped around her image at work. She'd spent years building herself as the woman who had it all. Professional, disciplined, inspirational. She used to give talks on work-life balance, on loyalty, on leadership. That's where I aim next. No revenge, no scandal. Just a subtle removal of the last pedestal she stood on. I contacted the nonprofit she volunteered at, the one she posted about constantly on LinkedIn, where she mentored young women about confidence and honesty. I sent them the same file. Again, no comments. Just the evidence. Not of infidelity, but of hypocrisy. Because if you're going to teach values, you should probably live by them. They didn't respond. They didn't need to. A week later, her profile on their website was gone. Her face disappeared from the volunteer roster. No statement, no drama. Just quiet distance. That's what broke her. She called again. I didn't pick up. She sent a voice message. This one was different. Her voice was trembling, and for the first time, it sounded real, not performative, not calculated, just tired. She said, "You were supposed to be the safe one, the one person who wouldn't destroy me. I didn't think you had it in you." And for a moment, I actually felt something. Not pity, not guilt, just the bitter taste of clarity. I had spent so long being afraid to draw lines, to demand respect, to take up space in my own life. And now that I had, she couldn't believe it. Because people like her don't expect the quiet ones to walk away. They expect them to wait, to beg, to forgive, to stay. But I didn't. And in every empty room she walked into now, in every cold shoulder she got from someone she once manipulated, she was finally facing something she had never experienced before. Silence she couldn't control. I watched it all from a distance. No gloating, no celebration. I stayed anonymous. Let her assume, let her wonder. She never knew how far I'd gone, or who I'd told, or what I'd held back. And I had held something back. In all the chaos, all the unraveling and quiet vengeance, there was one thing I hadn't touched, not out of mercy, but because I wasn't ready. It was the drawer, bottom right in the old oak desk I left behind. Thea's drawer, locked. I never asked what was inside during our marriage, and she never offered. At the time, it felt like a harmless boundary, some private space she needed. I had my journals, she had her drawer. But after everything came crashing down, the memory of it started crawling back into my thoughts like a loose thread. I couldn't stop thinking about it. What was she hiding that I was too trusting to question? During one of her early voice messages, the ones laced with faux concern and desperate attempts at rewinding time, she slipped up. She said, "You even took the spare keys from the filing cabinet. That was my private stuff. Marshall, I hadn't." But I hadn't told her that, which meant that drawer still held secrets. I made a quiet trip back. The house was still technically in both our names. It hadn't sold yet. I knew she wasn't living there full-time anymore, probably staying at a friend's or her new lover's place. So I waited until early morning, parked 2 streets away, and let myself in. The place looked abandoned. My shadow had haunted it. The lights didn't feel warm anymore. The air smelled stale, like perfume trapped in dust. I went straight to the drawer. Locked, as expected. But the key? It was taped under the top shelf of the filing cabinet, just like I always hid things. She'd learned my habits too well. I clicked it open. The wood creaked like it hadn't been touched in months. And what I found changed everything. Letters, handwritten ones, but not to me. They were addressed to someone named Nate, not the man from the hotel, not anyone I recognized. Dozens of them, each dated, some going back 5 years. 5 years. My throat tightened as I realized this wasn't a fling. This was a life, a separate emotional world she had nurtured, while telling me we were just going through a phase. I flipped through them, each more absurd than the last. She wrote about how she loved him, but couldn't leave me because Marshall is safe. She talked about our home like it was a prison, about me like I was an accessory she didn't have the heart to discard. One letter literally said, "He bores me, Nate, but he'd never survive alone." That line broke me. Not because she said I bored her, but because she believed I was weak, that I was disposable in the way you toss out a dusty old chair, that I was a placeholder until she figured out how to build her life without needing the stability I provided. She wasn't just cheating on me physically. She had reduced me to a footnote in her fantasy. I didn't take the letters. I took photos of them all, page by page. I didn't plan to expose them, not yet. But I needed to remember, not her version of me, my own, because for years I believed I was the quiet, stable one, the easy-to-ignore one. But standing there, holding those lies in my hands, I realized something. I had been invisible by choice. I had made it easy. Now, I wasn't going to be invisible anymore, not in my own story, and not in hers. As I left something in the drawer, my wedding ring, on top of the last letter. No note, no message. Just that band of gold, scratched and weathered, right there for her to find. They say revenge is best served cold, but I think they're wrong. It's not about heat or cold. It's about silence, about walking away with your dignity and leaving behind the wreckage for the person who caused it. I never raised my voice. I never slammed a door. I never made a public scene. I just left, piece by piece, truth by truth, until there was nothing left for her to hold on to except a ring in a drawer and the echo of her own choices. A few weeks after I left the wedding ring behind, I received a final message from her. Not a voicemail, not a long email, just a text that said, "You win." I never responded. There was nothing more to say. I wasn't looking to win. I wasn't keeping score. I just wanted peace. And for the first time in over a decade, I finally had it. I found a small place out in Oregon. Nothing fancy, but it overlooks a quiet river. I wake up early now, make my boring oatmeal with almond milk, and sip coffee without anxiety curdling in my stomach. I've joined a local hiking group. I read more. I breathe deeper. I laugh. Really laugh. Not performative chuckles or empty smiles, but the kind of laughter that comes from knowing you survived something you once thought would destroy you. Funny thing is, people assume walking away makes you weak. That disappearing means defeat. But walking away without shouting, without bitterness, while still holding the truth, that takes strength, more than I knew I had. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not sad. I'm just free. And maybe that's the best kind of ending.